Hey, this tutorial is going to go through how to draw stuff. Okay, so I'm going to start with just really basic things you should think about as you're drawing. So hopefully, my goal is that you can see my paper where I'm drawing here and kind of my reference where I'm drawing from as well. All right. So, what you want to do is make sure you have a good image, it's clear, and then you want to figure out your proportions first. So you want to draw really large. When I'm drawing, once again, I'm using just a plain piece of paper, and then I'm going to choose ideally a pencil that you have to sharpen because then you can get nice lines when you use that. If you don't have that as an option, go ahead and just use a mechanical pencil. Okay, so I'm just going to start with drawing with my broken pencil here, and it's going to work great. All right, now, first thing I'm going to do is do some visual measuring. So I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to compare. I'm just going to draw really simple shapes, and I'm going to compare some sizes. So I'm going to think about what is the size of this compared to this. So I'm just literally taking my fingers, and I'm holding it up to where's the top of my subject, where's the bottom of it, and it's going to fit in this circle eventually. And then I'm going to turn my fingers and compare the width. Magically and luckily for me, it's the same. Okay, so the height is the same as the width. But maybe for you, you're going to say the height is here, and then we'll just say that the width of the planter is that. So I know I'm going to have to make the width a little bit bigger than the height. Okay, so you can start with just that. And then start with a basic shape. I'm not going to draw all of these details right away. I'm just going to draw a circle because they all fit in kind of a circular shape, and I can get my proportions down when I do that. All right, so when you do this, draw lightly. I'm going to have to draw just a little bit darker than you should, just so that you can actually see it on camera. But what you're going to do is, in this case, my shape is pretty much round, okay? So if you were drawing something that maybe resembled more of a triangle or a rectangle, you would draw that shape. But mine's fairly round. So I'm going to start figuring out where I want it to go. And this time, I don't have to follow that exact size. I just know I want this to be pretty big on this paper. So I'm going to make a mark for the top and then a mark for the bottom. So you can see a line here and a line there. That's how tall I want it to be. And then for mine, I know it's going to be the same width. So I'm just going to figure out that measurement. I'm just using my hands, but you could use another pencil. And you're going to just turn that for your width. And now I'm going to make another mark based on where I want that to go here. All right, so I've got a top and bottom and sides. All right, now I know my general shape is a circle, so I'm going to come in and just very lightly draw my circular shape. All right, you can't really see that, which is good. You want to be very gentle with your first lines, but I want you to have a better idea of what it looks like, so I'm going to go over mine a little bit darker so you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, so that's literally all that I'm starting with, is just a simple shape. Then I will draw that planter in there as well. So I know about halfway, so I'm looking at the back of the planter and where it's touching there, about halfway from my top and bottom, just a little bit above that, is going to be the line where it's going to kind of meet the back. Okay, so that would essentially be the back right there. So then I'm going to go here and I'm going to say, okay, the planter is going to come around on that side, and it's curved. Once again, you would be drawing lightly, and then it's going to come around to the front here. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of gently get that shape in. And then maybe I don't even see the sides. Maybe I cut them off. Okay, I drew a little bit smaller in this one, but I'm just drawing it a different way here. All right, now I'm going to start by drawing the things that are closest to me, or would visually look the closest, because you're going to see all of those things. If you start with something back here, it's going to get covered up and it's just going to be weird to draw it. Okay, so this is one thing that's closest to me. And I know it's a little light on your screen, but closest to me here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a very simple shape. So once again, these are kind of just rectangular or almost oval. So I'm literally just going to come in and draw a very simple oval. Okay, so you can kind of see that. I'll draw it a little bit darker. Yours are going to be very light because we're going to draw over them again. All right, so I'm going to draw this. I know I have another one kind of coming around here. Notice once again, this is really about simple shapes and just looking at size and placement. I'm not adding any details at this point. I just want to get placement in there, okay? And I'm going to end up doing some erasing. Like I drew this weird line right there. I'm going to come in with my eraser, erase that. So those are like the main ones in front. Now I'm going to draw the next set behind, okay? So I'm looking at this part of the succulent here, and it's going to meet about, so from top to here, about halfway, and it's going to angle across, and it's just kind of this curved shape. I'm going to have it go out a little bit further. I'm going to do that with this one next. And so where the bottom of this one is, it comes down quite a bit lower. So I want to make sure I bring in that shape quite a bit lower here. And then I'm just going to keep going around, adding in all of these other pieces here. Okay, so I'm going to do this fairly quickly so you can see kind of my next steps here as I'm adding this in. Okay, so simple shapes. And then if they don't have to follow exactly what I did for my initial design. That was just kind of a layout piece. And now I'm just going to kind of refine this a little bit more. All right, and I'll end up drawing this differently later. Okay, so you can kind of see this. I'm going to turn it towards you. Really simple shapes. Okay, so this is literally the process I took on this one. All right, now I'm going to go and I'm going to start to define those shapes a little more in detail. I've got the place, and I'm going to start drawing darker with all of those details in it. So I'm going to look at this edge and look at the shape a little bit closer where all of those angles go. All right, so I'm coming in, and this is a little more wavy. It comes out a little bit more. You can see that I'm already drawing darker. So I'm reshaping all of this. And this is where you can get those sketchy lines depending on your style of drawing, and why I'll end up probably redrawing this again. Okay, so what you can see is now I've added more detail in there of that. And I've drawn darker, okay? Don't draw as dark as me yet, but I'm drawing darker because that helps me actually see my lines correctly. All right, now I'm gonna go to my next one up here, and I'm going to redraw those curves, make it look a little more what organic like it looks, add some little points in there, some details that I missed the first time because I was just doing my simple shapes. And I'm going to move all the way around. And this is a great time for erasing. Okay, so I'm really looking at my drawing a lot, or my photo that I'm looking at a lot to really see. I'm comparing, you know, when I bring this one in right here, I'm going to compare where it's going to touch there, and that's going to help get me a little bit closer. And when I first drew this, I drew it about at the same height as these. And then when I look at this again, you can see that this one's way longer. So when I go back to draw this, I'm actually going to make this way longer than I initially had. Add the side in there. And you can see that was my initial line there, and I redrew it a little bit taller based on how it's actually supposed to look. So that's why we draw light to start, because I'll end up erasing that. And then I can see an edge coming through here. So that's where I'm going to start to get some details in. Okay, so let's say I've done that for all of this. So I've come around and I've redrawn these. All right, so let's say I've gotten to this point, and I've redrawn them. All right, so now I'm going to add a few more details. So some places where I would see like a value change, so go from a dark to a light, Those are good places to add a few lines for details, especially like right here. So what I'm going to do is just come in and draw a few detail lines that way. And then I'll just kind of define it a little bit more. And then for this photo, there's a lot of like paint splatters down there. I'm drawing a few of those in there, but I'll show you how with your brush you can do that. You can add some details like splatters or textures or things like that. Okay. Now, if we look once again closely at this, I'll angle it towards you once again. You can see my lines are kind of uneven, which is going to show up when I put this into Illustrator. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going over my line. So I'm going to show you with this one right here. Okay. See how it's really uneven? I can do two things. I'm going to come. Sometimes it's nice to have some thick and thin lines. Thicker lines, especially the things that are closer up to you, and that one's farther away from me. So I'm actually going to use thinner lines. So I'm just going to erase this. And this is one reason why it's good to draw light, because I drew too dark there, so it's going to show. But I can just draw one line now. And it's way more defined than when I was trying to get all my lines. Okay, remember your other option is to put a blank sheet of paper on tops and hold it up to light and just retrace it that way. That's a great option. Okay, but you can see I came back in, I erased, and then I just redrew even lines, and those are going to show up way nicer. I'll do the same thing with this one. Okay, so I'm just erasing all of those extra lines that I added when I was trying to place everything correctly. And then I'll come and redraw that. So I'm just kind of tracing over my lines. So I have one line instead of like 5 lines. Oh, that's already looking better. All right. And anything that's closer up to me, once again, I'm going to make darker because it's just going to give that illusion. If you don't want to do that, that's okay, but that's an option if it works for you. All right, so I've got some extra lines right in here. I'm just going to erase those. Make sure just my outline is there. All right, so take your time with this. So you can see I even that way out. Take your time with this part. It'll really help you once we actually start converting it into a vector. All right, so I'm going to go through. There's a line right here. I got to even out these lines. I'm going to go through. And then once I even them out a little bit, I can even come with my eraser to erase extra lines that still ended up showing up. All right, so keep going with this. I will give you some feedback on your drawing, so that's why I'm going to have you do an upload for sure tomorrow, Wednesday. Otherwise, do an upload today if you want some feedback earlier.